This is Keys to the Shop, episode 244, Top 10 Ways to Lose Employees. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DiFirio. I'm your host for the show, and I'm always so grateful to have you along today, and hope you're doing well. Really doing well myself. Yeah, just getting into the fall season is amazing for me. My favorite season. So I hope you're enjoying the fall weather yourself. Hey, so if you want to always get Keys to the Shop updates and stay up to date with the latest episodes, I would encourage you to subscribe to Keys to the Shop wherever you get your podcasts. And also, if this show has been helpful for you over the years, or even if you're a new listener to the show, and by the way, welcome if you are, I would ask that you give the show a 5-star rating or review. It would really mean a lot, and it's really easy and quick to do, but we're trying to get up to 200 reviews, 200 5-star ratings by the end of the year. So that's kind of the ambitious goal, or at least to me it seems ambitious, but I really appreciate those of you who have taken the time to write very kind things about the show on iTunes and leave 5-star reviews. It's really helpful getting the show up there in the rankings and helping other people find this show as well. So thank you so much. And I want to let you know, Keys to the Shop also offers consulting and coaching for you and your business. So if you're opening your own coffee shop and you need advice or someone to help walk with you in the opening process to make sure that it goes well and you can avoid unnecessary mistakes, or if you are already established as a business, but you want to scale your business or you want to improve your systems, take things to the next level, get an assessment of where you're at as a business. These are the types of things that Keys to the Shop can help you with, either in person or over the phone. And if you want to reach out and talk with me about what that might look like for you and your situation, you can just email me, chris@keystotheshop.com. I would love to talk with you and see where you're at and how I can help. Again, the email for Keys to the Shop Consulting, Chris, CHRIS, @keystotheshop.com. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prima Coffee. Now, Prima Coffee is one of the best specialty coffee equipment suppliers because they're not only passionate about curating the best coffee equipment from all over the world, but they're also passionate about making sure that you get the right equipment for your needs. And they're not just about equipping you with equipment, but also with the information you need to use that equipment well. So if you go to prima-coffee.com, you'll see the amazing selection, but also you'll see that they have a lot of resources, videos and blogs, etc., that will help you maintain your grinders, maintain your espresso machines, even make better espresso and latte art. They're all about seeing you be successful in the specialty coffee world, and that's why I love working with them, and I think you will as well. So if you're in the market for commercial equipment for your cafe, reach out to them over at prima-coffee.com. This episode is also brought to you by the world's leader in plant-based performance beverages, and that is the Pacific Barista Series. The Barista Series is top choice for a good reason. They test all of their products in the field with the feedback of professional baristas so that when it lands on your counter, that you're going to have a plant-based beverage that will perform the way you really need it to provide an excellent result for your customers. So it stands up to the heat from the steaming process, and it creates amazing texture for latte art. And also, it really balances the beverage. So it's not overwhelmingly tasting like almond or soy, but it helps focus the drink on the coffee. These are the kinds of things that your plant-based customers are looking for, whether they want the almond, soy, coconut, rice, oat, or hemp. There is something there for everybody, and I would really encourage you to go to their website over at pacificfoodservice.com and check them out for yourself. Get it in your store and try it. Have your baristas try it. I think you're really going to like it, and your customers will too. So again, that website for the best choice in plant-based performance beverages, pacificfoodservice.com. All right, everybody. Well, I'm excited to present the topic of the top 10 ways to lose employees because this is, obviously it's critical. You don't want to lose employees. We're talking about losing employees for the wrong reason. There are ways that you can lose employees that are just natural. It sounds kind of morbid, but I'm talking about like if they move from your city or they're not in school anymore, so they have to go, where their job is taking them, etc. These are the types of things we cannot really control. The goal, though, is that we want to make it hard for people to leave. We want them to be like, oh, this is probably the thing I'm going to miss the most about leaving this city is leaving all of my teammates and my friends and leaving this shop. It's so great to work here. That's the kind of thing that just warms your heart as an operator, isn't it? And it's the type of thing we need to foster. It doesn't happen accidentally. It's a lot of hard work. And there are really a few key things 10 as it happens, that I think contribute the most to people leaving the coffee bar unnecessarily. And so I wanted to go through those with you today and really search yourself and see if this isn't true of you or one of your managers. And even if it's not true of you, if you're an owner and you have a manager who you're just like, I couldn't live without them, but sometimes they do this thing and I know that people don't like that, but they do so many other good things over here, but they do these bad things over here. Okay, so just make sure that you're thinking thoroughly through, give yourself, go through some kind of a mental audit as we're going through these top 10 things that cause employees to leave your business unnecessarily, and then maybe take some steps to rectify those things. So these are in no particular order. Number one, you don't set professional boundaries. So professional boundaries or personal boundaries, however you want to put it, these are the types of things that don't get established especially in independent coffee shops, where we have the tendency to refer to each other as family a lot. Kind of a problematic word that people use to elicit loyalty, the kind of loyalty that you've got to blood, or really, really close friends, etc. And it covers a multitude of sins. And when I say sins, I mean like toxic behavior from leaders can oftentimes be excused because, we're all so close and we're like a family, and sometimes families fight, and that's just the way it is. So we let ourselves off the hook that way. Or there's bullying that happens. Like, some people will be called not true believers, or they're not on the same mission as everybody else, or they're outsiders and they're just cast out from the group, the family. And it's kind of like this weird line between, like a group of people that's really close. Oh, yeah, like a family. That seems innocuous. But in practice, a lot of other behaviors get sort of Trojan horsed, if that's a word, sorry. They get put in there without really, it's not what people set out to do, but they end up out of desperation just resorting to these types of tactics because they're not setting professional boundaries. Like, this is work. This is a place where people expect to have personal boundaries. Like, you don't veer into these territories of trying to be people's counselors or parent. So many cringy moments where I've seen older owners try to become the motherly or fatherly figure in the young barista's life, and the young barista's just not wanting it. They're just like, this is a job, okay? And I get it, okay? As I get older, I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, look, you can do a lot more through example and setting up a very rewarding professional environment than you can simply by trying to sit somebody down and be like, now, son. This is the type of thing that does happen a lot, and especially I think it happens in smaller companies. And so the other part of professional boundaries is nepotism. This is behind a lot of the problems we have with representation of minority groups in coffee shops, where your coffee shop might be in a very diverse neighborhood, but everybody who works in it is just a white theology student. And the problem with that is simply that we're hiring friends of friends of friends, and we're hiring our relatives, and we're hiring we're promoting our brother to manager, and, you're the owner. And so your son gets to run the second coffee shop because he knows the family business. It's just insane behavior that really causes a lot of distrust, and it makes people want to leave the coffee shop because they know that there's nothing they could do to become a manager unless they're related to you or they're your best pal. And again, personal boundaries. Like, how is it even possible for me to succeed in this unless I, am somehow special or I'm the chosen one? Like, you don't want to set up an environment like that. Work is work. Work can be a place that is supremely and personally rewarding, and it's up to that person to get that personal value from it. And we need to respect people's boundaries, and we need to watch out for nepotism too, that we're not hiring people and promoting people simply because we like them or they're our friends or family. Okay, so that was number one. Number two is don't give them the resources to do their job. A lot of coffee bars suffer from this, and I say the coffee bars suffer. I would say more the baristas suffer. The business ends up suffering because we don't give them the proper equipment to do the job. We give them mismatched items. We don't give them enough steaming pitchers to keep up with demand. We don't give them the right knockbox, the right size. The trash cans don't necessarily fit under the counter. There's a bunch of little things that if you went through your coffee shop right now and you asked your baristas, what doesn't work? What is super frustrating to you that doesn't work? You probably don't even want to ask this because you already know what it is that they're going to say. And my question to you is, if you already know, why haven't you fixed it? Or if you are realistically, financially not able to fix it or give them the right tools, have you had, and why haven't you had, a conversation with them about that so that at least they know that it's on your minds? Because a lot of times the point is not so much that you get a trash can that fits, but that they know, hey, COVID, A, so things are pretty rough. B, even without COVID, it was really hard for us to justify certain purchases. C, we understand, and we are working to try to be able to, do these types of things for all the little fixes and replacements and additions that we need to make this place work right. So that can go a long way. But if you have the ability to make the changes, if it just means buying a broom that actually sweeps well, then do that thing. Give them the resources to do their job, and they will flourish. And that is a love language, if you will, for baristas. You say, hey, be a professional. Here's your job description. The whole shop rests on you. We build them up, but we don't equip them, and it's a slap in the face. And when people are constantly in that situation and they're constantly made to feel stupid, because they're not given the resource of information, for example, about new items on the menu, or they're just physically not given the right resources to do their job, they will leave because nobody likes to look dumb and not be able to perform their job in spite of their best intentions. And so they just need to get out. And a lot of people leave for these reasons. And I will say this, by the way, a lot of people will leave not just for one of these reasons, but because a lot of these things just pile up over time. And they don't even seem really significant at the moment. But just like the reason customers leave a coffee shop is not really one major blowout they had with a barista, it might just be like a couple dozen times they were let down by multiple baristas. That builds a case for deciding unceremoniously to just start going to another place. That's the way baristas usually end up leaving. And it's the same exact thing. So number 3 now, you want to be as unclear as possible. If your goal is to lose your employees, definitely don't have clarity in your communication. Don't let them know the details of a job. In fact, if they ask questions about the details, you should just get really frustrated and just be short with them because they're adults. They should know these things, So clarity, obviously, is a very important aspect of the job. And we've talked about that so many times on this show. So the lack of clarity in communication will cause people to make mistakes. Again, making them look dumb in front of the customers. And it will also make them question your leadership and your judgment. If you're not clear on what you want them to do, but you want them to do it anyway, you're asking them to perform a job you're going to judge them on, but you don't even know the ins and outs of it. Or if you do know the ins and outs of it and you don't give them all the information they need, or you're not as clear as you should be in communicating the details about the job and the outcome you expect from the job, then they're maybe left to think they're just, maybe you're setting them up for failure. Maybe that's what they're doing. That's what a barista might be thinking, is you're setting them up for failure by leaving out key pieces of information that they have to extract from you like a bad molar. And it's just not fair that you have to chase down your manager and your owner. If you're a manager, sometimes you have to chase down the owner of the shop. It's not fair. This is the type of thing, especially if you're a leader, this is your job. Clarity is your job. Details are your job. Systems are your job. And so lack of clarity, it builds up over time. And then what it does actually is it creates more clarity for that decision to leave the coffee shop. So that's number 3. Now, number 4, the reason why you'll lose employees is you undervalue your team and you never affirm them. Now, I just put out a shift break about affirmation, and it's something I value myself, especially because it doesn't necessarily come natural to my actions. And I put it like that in a weird way because I think in my mind, and a lot of us have this, where we think something, we have the intention, I should, call my mom, or I should say a nice thing about my spouse, or, I should do something, whatever it is that intention is. But we don't really act on it. What we do tend to act on is the critique, is the bad stuff. We tend to act on the cynicism, etc. And I know that that's kind of a default for me. And so early on in my career, I needed to work on affirmation. And people starve for affirmation in the coffee shop. People starve to be given positive feedback about their value. Am I valuable? Am I worthy? Am I doing a good job? These are the questions people ask themselves every day. The reason is that, for one, maybe because they're not hearing it, that they are. 2, a bad day on the bar, even if you are constantly doing this, could wipe it all out. It's nothing against you, but we just had a really hard day. Customers were just jerks today, and we spilled a bunch of stuff, and we're feeling really, really bad. And it's nice to know that even though you make mistakes, even though you have these bad days, you're still valued. Baristas become part of the furniture. When you're operating a business, you end up thinking about systems a lot. Like I said before, you should, but you end up just taking people for granted, that they're just there until one day they're not. And you're like, oh my God, they just left. How did that even happen? But this whole time, it's like right underneath your nose. You just keep on coming in, getting a coffee from them. How's it going? Cool. All right, man. And then you do that for like a year, and then finally they're gone because you just don't engage with them and you don't affirm them. You're not trying to value them. And so the solution is simply to plan out and purposefully schedule time to affirm. We've been over that. But also you need to make sure that people feel valued in their role. And that requires engagement from you, not just assumption that everybody is fine. Our old shift break, no news is good news. Our old shift break back again, no news is bad news. So you can't just assume that everything is great because people have their game face on. You need to engage with them and communicate their value to the business so that when times are hard on the bar, but in spite of that, I know that everyone here has my back and I'm playing an important role. If you don't have that, if people just feel like, the management couldn't care less, the ownership is never here, nobody ever really empathizes with our struggles because they don't really work the bar, and it's an environment that people don't want to be in. They want to be valued, and if they go to another place, they might be. In fact, a lot of times your competitors will see the value of your employees more than you will, and that's why you lose them to another coffee shop, is because to that other owner, they see them from an outside perspective and they're like, wow, I can't believe that this person is not a manager yet. And I can't believe that this person is not, better paid or whatever it is. So when that barista finds that shop and they feel that energy from that person that sees the value in them, that's going to make a great combination. And then they were just like, well, why stick around where I am, where I'm not valued, if I can go to a place where I'm valued? So definitely invest in getting new eyes. Look at your team in a fresh way, figure out ways to affirm them on a regular basis, and communicate their value and do it in a substantial way, which leads us to number 5 reason why people will leave your coffee shop. And that is that you pay them only what you can get away with and not what you can. The rule that you should follow is a rule of generosity. People will directly link their value in a company to what they are paid, and they will be able to see clearly if you're only paying them what you can get away with versus what you can. See, the difference between the two is a mindset. Those who are trying to only pay what they can get away with are really undervaluing their baristas, and they're trying to make excuses for being cheap. The other mindset is, I want to be as generous as I can within the limitations of my business. So it doesn't mean that you have to pay what your competitors pay if you can't. If you know that you financially can only afford to pay your crew this amount, then you communicate to them, here is my heart in this. My heart is to pay you what I can. And here is what we can pay because of these things. When you're upfront and honest with people about stuff like that, it goes a long way. When you are simply withholding money just for the heck of it, and because you're like, well, I don't need to pay them any more than they get paid me. They make a lot of tips, so who cares? And it's minimum wage or nothing. I can find another job. I can tell in that kind of an attitude that you're not the type of person that should be running a coffee shop. If you're on the other end of that kind of an attitude, as an employee, it does not feel very good. And a lot of times bosses will forget what that felt like as soon as they get a little taste of power. And don't let that be you. You need to be in the people business, and caring for people means caring for their well-being. If you want to reduce turnover, you operate out of a spirit of generosity. You don't have to sacrifice your business and its financial well-being just to pay people more, because then they don't have a job. That doesn't make sense. But paying them what you can versus what you can get away with is key to being able to retain your employees. But if you want to lose them, then, just do the bare minimum. Number 6 on the list is really interesting, and because I've experienced this myself with a lot of insecure owners who are constantly pushing people away because they're suspicious and they assume the worst. They're always suspicious of the baristas stealing from them. They install cameras everywhere. They're always suspicious of people wasting time and people doing this and that you're going to cause this business to crumble, and you treat the employees like criminals. They haven't even done anything, and you're looking out at them like, oh, you're going to be the one to destroy my business. And that attitude spills out into little outbursts of anger, and sometimes big outbursts of anger, where it's a toxic environment of, walking on pins and needles around the owner. Because if they see you dump a little bit too much milk out into the milk rinser after a cappuccino, they say, that's too much milk waste. We can't afford for you to waste that much milk. We have bills to pay. You want a paycheck? Blah, blah, blah. You just keep going and going. What's happening is this verbal diarrhea, pardon my French, I guess, or Latin. What's happening there is just a result of a buildup of this mindset that the baristas are out to get you, and you've got to protect yourself against them at all costs. It actually is the same attitude that people have towards customers sometimes. Every customer is a suspect until proven not to be. They're always going to try to get something out of you, and they're always going to try to steal sugar packets or whatever it is. So coming into the situation suspicious And assuming the worst is a great way to push people away from you. It's a huge reason why people leave a coffee shop, not necessarily because you have that attitude, but it's the actions that result from that attitude that people don't like. They don't like these outbursts of anger. They don't like feeling like you're accusing them of something. And, I've been on the end of gaslighting myself in lots of different positions in my career where people are overreacting, putting words in your mouth, et cetera, et cetera. It's coming from a huge place of insecurity. You should be secure in your business systems, that you have checks and balances. If you're concerned about the drawer, you should have a good cash out procedure. You should have a good accounting. I'm not saying that you should never have cameras in your shop. I personally hate the idea of cameras in your shop unless you've got outside concerns for the security of your shop, like the front door, the back door, stuff like that. Otherwise, I'd say, please, avoid them because people feel like they're in a prison. But your security is not found in intimidating your staff and your customers. And if it is, and if you find yourself in this position, you're likely on the path to losing employees that you might not think it right now because, again, you're suspicious of them. And so when they leave, you're like, good, I didn't like them anyway. And you'll never know that they were actually a good employee that you just painted with this weird brush in your own mind. So really think about that and consider whether that's something present in your mind or some of your leaders' minds. Now, number 7 in our top 10 ways to lose employees will be abandon your staff. Now, this is especially true when it comes to management. Owners tend to use management as a way to completely check out of the process, and they think that's what a manager's for. They're just like my business maid. They're the person who comes in and does everything, and sometimes they check in. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, they don't want to tell you that's going bad because then it looks bad on them. But for the most part, managers tend to be abandoned to a task and not given the kind of support from ownership that they need, the clarity, the details, the direction, counsel, etc., to do a good job. And so people just feel left out in the open. And they have to make decisions in that moment, but they feel like it's just hard to lead because they don't have any support. Baristas also feel this way when managers give them minimal information or support and just kind of abdicate their role as leaders and say, well, do what you think, do what you feel, and simply don't engage in strong, hands-on, detail-oriented leadership. And so people that feel abandoned will abandon you. They will leave because what's the difference? If they have a better prospect elsewhere where they're going to get the support they need, they'll go there. But you can't just shirk your responsibilities because you've delegated, okay? And especially if you're losing a manager because of something like this, it's really hard to replace a manager. And in fact, sometimes it's almost impossible. You have to become the manager. Now, if you don't want that to happen, you better do some soul searching to see if this is something that is true of your leadership style right now. So number 7, the point is don't abandon your staff, be that the managers or the baristas. They need your support, and they don't want to be left out there to dry. They will find a different place to go. All right, now, number 8. If you want to lose your employees, don't listen to them or give them a platform for feedback. All right, so number 8 here on our list of top 10 ways to lose employees, don't listen to them or give them a platform for feedback. This is a really huge one. Baristas have a lot of insight. They have a lot of ideas. They know how to make things better, and they have a lot of concerns also and questions. And what we do sometimes is we're also busy. We just don't give them the idea that we just don't present ourselves as being very accessible, and people just don't know what to do. They don't want to be risk offense. They don't want to be too needy. It's the rare barista who really ventures into that, like, well, I need to know, so I'm going to ask. Most baristas will tend to not ask, because you're not giving them the opportunity to ask a question or give feedback and listen to their ideas about the bar. And some of this is because we're not valuing them, because we don't think they can have good ideas because they're just, quote unquote, just baristas. Some of this is also because we're really busy and we don't prioritize feedback because we figure if it's important, they will talk to us. But no matter what the reason is, we have to provide a platform for feedback as a part of the system of your business, or else it just won't happen. It won't happen because the extra effort that it takes to put that feedback out there is always met with the question of, but will it be valued and is it worth it? The question of is it worth it is answered by the fact that you've built a platform. If I say we are constantly going to solicit feedback from our baristas, from our staff, and make it a cultural institution in our business, then everybody knows that we value it. Why else would we invest in building a platform or a system unless we did? But if you just say, hey, if you have any ideas, let me know, and you just leave it at that, that's just you stating a good intention, but it's not the kind of thing that you build and foster feedback on. So when baristas are not listened to, and when they are not given a platform for feedback, oftentimes they will leave. And this is another reason why people are turning over in coffee shops, is because they're not just automatons. They can make your business better. They do have questions that will help them create a better outcome for your customers and for the shop. And if there is no platform for feedback, and you don't listen to them because you think you know it all, or because you don't think they know anything, or whatever else your reason is, they will find another place to go. Okay, so number 9, if you want to lose baristas, don't give them a way to advance or learn more in the business. So this one is tricky, okay? It's tricky because you don't necessarily have unlimited resources. If you're a small business, there may be very few places to go. If you have one shop, there's only one management position. If you've got 2 shops, there's only 2 management positions. And so where else are people going to go? We're not talking about advancing in the kind of classical sense of up, 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 right? But we're talking about advancing in a sense of evolving. Let's put it that way. People want to evolve forward. People want to develop. People want to know that you're invested in their development, and that you're also invested in developing the business to house that development. So if the business is growing and you need somebody to, help do some training, you can put somebody into a training role who shows promise. That's a good way to let your business sort of dictate how you can have people advance. If you don't have a lot of different positions or structures of pay that you can put in place right now, you can at least put on different events, invest in different kinds of incentives. Like, if you do this well on a barista test, we'll pay for you to go to, a trade show, or we'll pay for you to take this online coffee course or something like that. There's a lot of different creative ways that you can create incentives and also develop people along the way and reward them accordingly. That is what people are looking for. Now, sometimes people aren't looking for that. Sometimes people just want to work a job. They want to go in, work, leave. They don't want to advance. They don't want to be a barista the rest of their lives. They're studying physics in college, and that's just not what they're going to do. Other people tend to want to stay there because they really develop a love for coffee, and they really wish and hope that there was something interesting to look forward to, or something to help them develop as a professional in your business. So whatever that looks like for you, develop it within your means and really celebrate that and engage your baristas that way. If you don't do that at all, if you just don't give them anything to look forward to or any way to advance their career within your business at all, then you're likely to lose them. And a lot of people do leave for those reasons. And this one treads on the line of necessary/unnecessary. If you've done all you can and you've been clear about that and your heart is in the right place, then losing them to another business because they want to become a manager at a higher level for more pay is only natural. It's not something to bemoan. I mean, your limitations are your limitations, okay? It's just how small business can tend to work. But if they're leaving because you could have but didn't, that's a different story. So that's something for you to explore. Give them a way to advance and learn more. So the last thing here on the top 10 ways to lose employees is never admit that you are wrong. Always blame others. This one can tend to hit pretty hard because it's hard to admit when you're wrong because a lot of our leadership is predicated on the idea that we need to be the example. We need to be perfect. And if we're wrong, then we're not perfect. If we're wrong, we'll give other people the permission to be wrong. And that's wrong. we don't want to do that. Well, that in and of itself is wrong. In fact, I just talked to my son this morning about this. He was trying to write the number 9, and he couldn't write it the way that we were trying to get him to write it. And he wanted to write it his way, and he knew he was wrong. So I had to have a conversation with him about why it's actually good to be wrong, because it gives you an opportunity to improve. And everybody has to be wrong at some time in order to be right. Everybody has to make mistakes. Nobody is good right away. You're not going to be a good leader as soon as you start owning a coffee shop. In fact, as soon as you sign the lease of your coffee shop, you're definitely signing on to be kind of a mediocre leader at first. That's just the facts. It really is. You're going to do your best to be a good leader, but you're going to have times where you are so dead wrong and it feels bad, and you're going to feel the need to blame other people instead of yourself. And you have to resist that urge. Leadership is about taking responsibility. Leadership is not about blaming other people, even if somebody helped that thing come to be, whatever that mistake was. You can still create an environment as a leader that reduces the frequency of that mistake or the ability for that mistake to be made. It's still your business and your responsibility. And admitting when you're wrong to other people and gives them permission to be wrong on their way to being right, to make mistakes on their way to being better. We can't, out of insecurity, just hide the fact that we're wrong or that we make mistakes. We have to give ourselves permission to admit these things. And this is coming personally from a space where I can tend to blame shift easily. But I know, and part of the reason why we get angry with other people sometimes when we're the ones who did something wrong is because we feel embarrassed. Because we're holding too high of an expectation on ourselves, creating kind of a toxic expectation for both us and the employees. So this is the kind of environment that people leave. They don't want to be led by some kind of a, owner/deity. This is not what people signed up for. They know who you are. They know that you're a human being. So let's stop pretending that we're not and start admitting when we're wrong and taking the blame where we need to take it, taking responsibility, and that will lessen the likelihood that people leave your business. Now, we've gone over a lot of content here, and I want to say that it's all very critical to consider, because now more than ever, we need a stable workforce in retail coffee. We need to do as much as we can to provide an environment that is going to help them thrive, that's going to help the business thrive, and us as leaders within it. These are key things to consider when you're setting up an environment like that. The future of your shop really does depend on it, because your shop depends on people. And these are things that are directly linked to either taking care of your people well or losing your people unnecessarily. So I hope that this episode has been useful for you. If you've got any questions, comments, or feedback about this or other episodes of Keys to the Shop, or you're interested in talking about consulting, again, email me, chris@keystotheshop.com. I would love to hear from you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Thank you so much, and as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.